how to work with frustrated landlords to close profitable deals. What we're going to be covering today is where to find frustrated landlords. Where are we going to find these guys? And signs that help us recognize if it's a deal or if it's not a deal, and how we can actually contact them with these frustrated landlords, which is what we're going to be talking about. Most off-market real estate investment deals are done with burnout landlords. I should actually say most of the highly profitable deals. I think saying most real estate investment deals, but I think from my perspective with 22 years of experience, burnout landlords is a great way to find highly profitable deals. So the question is, why is this the case? Well, bad tenants, okay? Bad tenants can make your life miserable. When I was first learning how to manage properties, I had a tenant that moved in that destroyed the property, did $30,000 worth of damage to the property that I had to pay for, and I had to get them out of there. And after that, I said, I need to learn how to manage properties. And I've done that, and I have not had a situation like that since, because it's like, fool me once, shame on me, or fool me once, shame on me, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, right? So most people don't have a landlording system. That's a big deal, and you need a landlording system to be successful. Most people don't run their rental properties like a business. So they don't say, this is what we're going to do if these things happen. They run it based upon emotion, which can get you in trouble. Most have put a significant amount of money down. Okay, most of them have done that. So they don't understand the value of a write-off to offset their income. They are messed up with the situation. Capital improvements are needed on the property. This means big stuff like roofs, like HVAC systems, AC units, that type of stuff. The property may be messed up, or the property may have damage to the property. So how do you find frustrated landlords? Well, the first place I look is at non-owner occupied properties. This basically means that they do not live in the property, but they live in the same state where the property is located. And so we look at this. So how we get this information is we look at where the property notice is sent. The property tax notice is sent. If the property tax notice is sent to a different address than the subject property that the property taxes are for, then we know it's non-owner occupied. So what do I mean by that? Well, for my house where I live, when I get my property tax notice, they mail it to my address. But when I get a property tax notice for a property that I own as a rental property, it gets mailed to my home address. It does not get mailed to the address of the property. It gets mailed to my address or to my office address. So we're saying, okay, this is getting mailed somewhere other than the property address, which tells us that more than likely this is a non-owner occupied property. Let's talk a little bit about residential. I don't want to be going after commercial properties. You can go after commercial properties. That's not what we're talking about here when we're looking at tired landlords. I'm looking for residential properties. Most of all your commercial is going to be non-owner occupied, right? So I like single family condos, townhouses is what I'm looking for. You could do duplex, threeplex, fourplex, not my cup of tea, okay? So listed on the market. I typically don't want to go after things that are listed on the market. If it's listed on the market, I don't want to be chasing that one for myself. You may have a different feeling on that. You may want to do our MLS sniper approach, but I like to go after tired landlords that currently aren't listed on the market. So these are homes that they've engaged an agent to put the property on the multiple listing services, signed an agreement with that agent. That is what is considered a listed property, which is why I don't want to chase those, okay? If you do want to do that, MLS Sniper is the way to go. You can find the full video on MLS Sniper, how to turn the worst strategy into your personal deal funding funnel. Check out that video if you are interested in going for some of those that are on market properties. But for this conversation, we're going to say we're not going after those. The other thing we want to look at is estimated value. I like to be over $100,000 of estimated value, but I want to be less than $500,000, and I want to be less than the FHA minimum for my area. So how do I determine that? Well, what I do is I do a search. What is the maximum FHA loan limit single family house in Chicago, Illinois? Search that, you'll find the information there. It gets updated annually, maybe even more than annually. And it doesn't need to be precise. You don't need to know exactly. Is the FHA loan limit in your area 700,000 or is it 200,000, right? Because that's going to give you a good idea. And I like to be at the lower of the FHA or the 500,000, whichever is lower. So if the FHA loan limit in the area was 800,000, which most places it's not even close to that, I'm going to go with the 500,000 because I want to be in the range of properties where there's more buyer activity. So I really think you should be the lower, the 500,000 or the FHA in your area. Next thing you got to do here with these potential burnout landlords is to find if they have equity. If they don't have equity, you can't make a deal on this unless they are willing to come to the closing table with a check to pay you to buy their property. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Now, if they have equity because they put 20% down or the property values have gone up, walking away from some of that equity rather than kicking the tenant out or doing the repairs and those things is a lot easier pill to swallow than it is pill to swallow for you having to come to the table with a check. So also check and see if it's under a personal name. I like, when I'm going after non-owner occupieds, I like to go after things in personal names, not in LLCs. If it's in an LLC, they're more of a professional type investor. And I like to go over, I think not necessarily, and you can go after LLCs. Another thing that you can do is you can say, I'll go after LLCs where I don't know the name. Like if it's JP Morgan Chase or Bank of America, that type of stuff. No, I don't want to go after those, but I could go after some other ones. What I like to do is if it has an LLC, basically, I think they're more organized and more of a professional and maybe have a management system. So if they do not have an LLC, I want to target those first. If there's not enough in that list, I will go after the LLCs, but then I'm going to scan through the list just to make sure that the LLCs aren't like companies that I know, because if that's the case, because I'm looking for, just a guy that owns a property as a rental property that's gotten sick and tired about this. So this tells me the story that more than likely they're not serious investors if it's not in the name of an LLC. So to recap on this, I like to search non-owner occupieds. I like to search residential, single family, condo, townhouses that are not listed on the multiple listing services. I like to look at things that are out of county. I like to look at $500,000 or less, or the FHA, whichever is less, 30% more of equity, and not in a personal name, not an LLC. So the question now is like, how do I get in touch with these landlords? Well, you can mail to them. You can phone call them if you do a skip trace. You can send them a text message, and you can also send them an email. So we know the mailing address, right? The mailing address is where the property tax notice goes to, which is not the property address that you're interested in. It's a different address. It's their home address, their work address, those types of things. Some of the things we can do is send them some of these mailers, these postcards. I like these. Tired of dealing with your bad tenants, right? So that's the kind of a sample one that you can look at. And how ugly houses wanted, no fees, no commissions, no that type of stuff. You can put, I just taken off the phone numbers and addresses and that type of stuff. Bad tenants, I kind of like this one. Because I've had some tenants that I thought looked like this guy, but this is having some humor on it. Troublesome tenants driving you crazy. How do you get rid of these troublesome tenants? So those are things you can send in postcards out to them. And then you can get the phone number, the text, the email, and you can do all that by doing what's called a skip trace. And luckily it's fairly expensive. It's like 12 cents per house, and you only pay if you get information. Now, is all the information you get back going to be accurate? No, it's not. But it's going to be the most reliable information that's available, and you'll be wanting to call everyone that's on that list. So skip tracing is going to be the best information that's available in trying to find that person. And they're going to give you lots of phone numbers, and some of those are going to be old phone numbers for that individual. And hopefully some of those are going to be the current phone numbers for those individuals as well. So pro tip, don't forget to ask everybody you talk to. So let's say you do the skip trace and you talk to somebody and they're like, no, I don't own that house. Ask them if they're interested in selling a house, or if they know anybody else that's interested in selling a house. You have somebody on the phone, you are talking to them, see what they know. Do they know anybody, or do they have anybody? And most of the time they're gonna say, nope, I don't, okay? But that's okay, you still wanna ask. Also in Investor's Edge, we can show you linked properties that are owned by a specific person. So if you come in to Investor's Edge and you put, hey, what are the linked properties? Well, the linked properties, this guy owns 4 properties for an estimated total value of $3.6 million with $1.1 million of estimated portfolio equity. Well, he owns those. And guess what? He owns all of these in his personal name. Okay, that's somebody that I want to be targeting as I'm going after this. Now, you're going to say, well, what do I say to these people, Ryan? When I call them up, what do I say to these landlords? Well, I just say, hello. Is this Bob or whatever the name of the owner is? Yes, it is. No, it's not. I was calling about 123 Main Street. Is that your property? I was wondering if you would have any interest in selling that home rather than renting it. That's an easy way to jump in there and talk to them. And if they say yes, you go to the motivated seller script. What do I say? Those types of things. And if they say no, you simply just say, do you have any other properties you would like to get rid of? I love that the verbiage get rid of, where there's just like, hey, I just want to get this right. We're going after frustrated landlords. So we want to be doing that. Another strategy to do this is to call for rent by owners. So wherever people post their places for rent, that could be on a local classifieds or Craigslist, or it could be on some bigger site. If the person listed there is not a real estate agent and they're not representing somebody else, it's called a for rent by owner. And if you call for rent by owners and say, would you have any, I was calling about 123 Main Street. Number one, it's pretty easy to get their phone number because they're trying to find a tenant and they've got their phone number listed there. Number two, they're probably going to answer the phone. And number three, you can have a conversation. And some people may not be interested in getting rid of this property, but they might be interested in getting rid of another property, which is why you're going to want to tell them, hey, do you have any other properties you'd be interested if this isn't the one? And you want to keep tabs with these guys. So if now's not the time, is there a time that will make sense? Is it something you consider in the future? Can we stay in touch with each other? It's about building a relationship. And this is where you call all of the rental ads that are not property managers. And with that, you are able to find properties that could be great potentials. I have found a lot of great deals and made a lot of great relationships by this one strategy alone, calling for rent by owners. And basically just, hey, are you interested in selling rather than renting? This is a great strategy. This is a ninja trick that most people are not willing to do. It is awesome. I've had great success with it. So the same type of a script. I was calling about the 123 Main Street. Yes, I was wondering if you have any interest in selling rather than renting. You go to the motivated seller script. No. Do you have any other properties you want to get rid of? Same type of thing that we're going through, even if we're doing the direct marketing to those guys through a postcard or through Skip Trace. Now, let's jump through a big recap here. What have you learned today? Well, one thing, looking for off-market properties. You want non-owner occupied properties, you want residential properties, and you want to consider the estimated value and equity to make sure you're not over that FHA or make sure that you're not over that $500,000 mark. I like to target stuff that's not in people's personal names, not in the LLCs, okay? And get in touch via mail, phone call, text message, email, or if they have the property listed for rent on some type of a site is the other way we can get in touch with them, which for that we would be making a phone call. Lots of these other ones, Skip Trace. Now, one of the things with the for rent by owners, the property is vacant. So they may have some motivation, they may have a mortgage payment, they may have some other motivation in getting rid of that property faster. So something, just don't overlook that. It's a really, really big tip on those for rent by owners.